A massive explosion of flames tore through the quiet Colorado night. My phone rang at 2:47 a.m. My neighbors screaming, "Your house is on fire." I got there by 3:20 to pure chaos. Firefighters on defense, my beautiful 1920s craftsman engulfed, and the thick smell of gasoline everywhere. Across the street sat the HOA President Bryn in her white Lexus SUV, engine running, just watching the blaze like it was entertainment. She thought no one saw her, but I knew exactly who did this. For months, she'd been harassing me. Fake violations, false police reports, sabotaging my tools, all to block the financial audit that would expose her stealing over $140,000 from neighborhood funds. This time, she went full arson. What she didn't know, I'd installed hidden cameras 2 weeks earlier. And I'm not just the homeowner. I'm the local municipal court judge who would sign her arrest warrant and preside over her court date just days later. Stick around for felony charges and the most satisfying courtroom karma ever. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Declan. I'm 52, a widower, and for 2 days a week I sit behind a municipal court bench handling traffic tickets, small claims, and city ordinance disputes. The other 3 days I renovate old houses. Not for profit, for survival. 3 years ago, my wife Iris died from ovarian cancer. Stage 4, the kind that doesn't give you leverage or time to negotiate. Watching someone you love disappear inch by inch teaches you strange lessons. You learn patience. You learn how to stay standing when everything feels broken. After she was gone, silence became unbearable, so I started working with my hands. Old wood, old nails, old homes that had survived longer than people ever do. Iris grew up in a 1920s craftsman bungalow. Yellow siding, deep porch, thick wooden columns that felt solid enough to lean your whole life against. Every holiday, every summer, she walked me through that house like it was a museum. The crown molding, the breakfast nook, the way the afternoon light spilled across the hardwood floors. She loved details because details meant care. So when I found a near-identical craftsman in a place called Ponderosa Bluffs, 40 minutes outside Denver, I didn't even negotiate. I closed in January. The plan was simple. Restore it exactly how Iris described. Then donate it as transitional housing for cancer survivors. A place where people could heal without worrying about rent notices or eviction letters. The house smelled like old pine, plaster dust, and history. Floorboards creaked like they were waking up with me at dawn. Felt right. And then, the very first day I owned it, I met Bryn Castellane. I heard her before I saw her. Sharp heels clicking down my gravel driveway like an accusation. Blonde bob. Tennis visor in January. Clipboard held tight like a weapon. She didn't say hello. Didn't welcome me. "Your lawn is out of compliance," she said. It was January. The grass was dormant. She pulled out a tape measure. Measured it. Smiled without warmth. Issued a fine. That was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, certified letters piled up like threats. Mailbox color violations. Work truck complaints. Dumpster placement issues. Things my neighbors were doing too, but only I was being fined for. And then she said it. "This neighborhood has standards," she told me, glancing at my renovation supplies. "We don't want it turning into low-income housing projects." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. And Bryn didn't know yet that I read laws for a living. The violations escalated fast. Almost impressively fast. 1 week it was my lawn. The next it was my work hours. Then my construction noise. Even though I was using hand tools. I stopped answering letters and started tracking them. Dates, times, language, patterns. When you read law long enough, you start recognizing intent hidden behind formality. Bryn never knocked on anyone else's door. Just mine. I talked to the neighbors quietly, casually, over fences, on morning walks. Same violations, same behaviors, same dumpsters, same trucks. None of them fined. Not once. A retired couple 3 houses down had an unapproved shed for 6 years. 0 notices. Another neighbor parked his boat on the street every weekend. No problem. Selective enforcement isn't a mistake. It's a strategy. The HOA meeting was scheduled for a Thursday night at the community clubhouse. I went early and sat in the back. Bryn arrived last, of course. White blazer, same clipboard, same practiced smile. She ran the meeting like a courtroom parody. Recognized speakers she liked. Ignored the rest. When my turn came, she didn't even look at me. "Your violations are ongoing," she said flatly. "The board has no obligation to explain enforcement decisions." That sentence stuck with me, because legally it was wrong. Very wrong. I asked for evidence. She slid printed photos across the table. My driveway, a stain near the curb. Oil maybe, old, faded. "That's the unauthorized modification," she said. I looked around the room, calm, slow. "Is this considered permanent?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes." I asked if similar stains were being enforced equally. She didn't answer. Instead, she motioned to adjourn. That's when I noticed something else. A line item on the HOA financial summary pinned to the corkboard. Landscaping reserves. Emergency maintenance. Vendor payouts. The numbers didn't align. Too round. Too consistent. Too clean. After the meeting, one board member lingered behind. Older guy. Nervous eyes. "Off the record," he said. "She signs everything." That night, I went home and reviewed HOA bylaws like a crime scene. Section by section. Page by page. There it was. Clear as day. Enforcement must be uniform. Fines must follow notice and cure periods. Appeals must be heard. None of that happened. So I filed a records request. Certified mail. Polite language. Firm deadlines. 2 days later, my work trailer was reported stolen. Found 6 blocks away. Tools missing. Locks cut clean. No signs of forced entry. Police wrote it up. I recognized the timing. The next morning, a police cruiser sat outside my house. Noise complaint. Anonymous. That's when I installed the cameras. Not obvious ones. Hidden angles. Motion triggered. Night vision. Covering the perimeter, the driveway, the side yard. 2 weeks later, they paid for themselves. Because the letters stopped. For 10 full days, nothing. No fines. No warnings. No visits. Then, at 2:47 a.m., my phone rang. By the time I reached the house, the street was glowing orange. Not from streetlights. From fire. Flames were climbing the porch columns like they were alive. Rolling under the eaves. Devouring a century of dry timber in minutes. Firefighters were already there, hoses screaming. But they weren't trying to save the structure anymore. They were protecting the neighboring homes. My house was considered a loss. I stood behind the tape, numb. Not crying. Not shaking. Just hollow. The smell hit me next. Gasoline. Sharp and unmistakable. Anyone who's ever filled a mower or generator knows it instantly. This wasn't an electrical accident. This wasn't old wiring. This was intentional. And then I saw her. Across the street, engine running, headlights off, Bryn sat inside her white Lexus. Windows up, hands on the wheel, watching, not filming, not calling anyone, just watching like someone observing a controlled burn. When our eyes met, she looked away slowly, like she hadn't expected me to be standing there already. She drove off before the fire marshal finished his first walkthrough. By sunrise, the house was a blackened skeleton. Roof collapsed. Windows gone. Porch reduced to ash. Everything I'd restored. Every board I'd saved. Every nail I'd reused. Gone. And with it, the place I'd promised myself would exist for people who needed it. The fire marshal pulled me aside later that morning. Low voice. Professional. "Accelerant confirmed," he said. "We'll need your footage." I didn't respond right away. I just nodded. Back at my temporary rental, I sat at the kitchen table and watched the clips alone. Again and again. Time-stamped. Clear. 2 figures. Hooded. Gloves. One poured. The other lit. They didn't know about the side-angle camera. They didn't know about the infrared. But the second figure hesitated before striking the lighter. Just long enough to glance toward the street. Toward the Lexus. I copied the footage. 3 drives. 1 for the fire marshal. 1 for my attorney. 1 for myself. That afternoon, Bryn sent an email. Given recent events, she wrote, the board is prepared to suspend enforcement temporarily. This gesture reflects our commitment to community harmony. No condolences. No mention of the fire. Just damage control. I forwarded the footage to the district investigator and waited. 2 days later, the HOA emergency meeting was canceled. 3 board members resigned within 48 hours. Vendor contracts were frozen. Accounts flagged. A forensic audit was announced publicly by the city. Then Bryn came to my door. No clipboard this time. No smile. Hair pulled back tight. Sunglasses on even though it was overcast. I think there's been a misunderstanding, she said. I told her she was trespassing. Her voice cracked. Just slightly. You don't understand how this works. I did. Better than she thought. Because the next morning I signed the warrant. She was arrested at her office. White blazer. Same Lexus. Same clipboard. Charges included felony arson, fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction. Bail denied pending hearing. The footage played in open court. She didn't look at me once. Courtrooms have a smell. Old paper, disinfectant, stale coffee. They all smell the same, whether you're there for a speeding ticket or a felony arraignment. That morning, the gallery was full. Neighbors, reporters, a few former board members who suddenly remembered prior commitments elsewhere. Bryn sat at the defense table in a navy suit that didn't quite fit the room. Her posture was rigid, jaw clenched, no clipboard, no control. When the judge entered, she stood too late. Small things like that matter when power slips away. The prosecutor laid it out cleanly. Financial records first. The HOA accounts. Landscaping vendors that didn't exist. Emergency repairs that never happened. Over $140,000 redirected through shell invoices. Then the selective enforcement pattern. Then the fire. The footage played on the screen. No sound. Just movement. Just truth. You could hear the room shift. People lean forward when reality lands. Bryn stared straight ahead. Like if she didn't look at it, it wouldn't be happening. Her attorney didn't object. There was nothing to object to. When it was my turn to testify, I kept it simple. I talked about the house, the restoration, the purpose. I didn't mention my wife by name. I didn't need to. The judge understood. Most people do when they hear someone speak without anger. The defense tried once. Claimed coincidence. Claimed circumstantial evidence. Claimed stress. The judge shut it down. Bail remained denied. Trial date set. Civil suits followed. The HOA was placed under external management. New elections scheduled. Emergency bylaws enacted. Quietly, efficiently, without drama. Afterward, neighbors approached me one by one. Apologies, confessions, regrets for staying silent. I told them it was fine, because silence is what systems like that depend on. Fear, fatigue, people assuming someone else will speak up. The house was never rebuilt. Not that one. But the insurance settlement funded something better. 3 smaller units. Quiet. Accessible. No HOA. Places where people recovering from cancer could breathe without someone measuring their grass. Bryn took a plea deal. State prison. Restitution ordered. Her Lexus was auctioned. The clipboard showed up in evidence photos months later. Bent and scorched. I still renovate houses. Still sit on the bench twice a week. But now, when someone stands in front of me nervous and overwhelmed, I remember how close I came to giving up just to make it stop. And if you're watching this thinking, that would never happen to me, I promise you, every system counts on you believing that. If the story hit home, subscribe. Not for drama, for awareness. And tell me in the comments, have you ever dealt with an HOA that crossed the line? Because sometimes, the only thing standing between abuse and accountability is someone willing to document everything and refuse to stay quiet.